Hello and welcome to today's webinar, The Guest Experience Hospitality Best Practices, presented by the Wall Street Journal. We would like to thank you for attending and want to also thank our panelists for participating in today's event. I would also like to take the time to thank Wall Street Journal for making this webinar possible. We understand that your time is valuable and we're glad to have you with us. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Our presenters will be available at the end of the presentation to answer any questions. Please feel free to submit questions at any time using the Q&A feature in the webinar console. We encourage you to share your thoughts throughout today's event using the Twitter widget within the event console and the hashtag WSJGuestEXP, also located at the bottom of each slide. Also, this session is being recorded. You will receive a link to the archive recording within the next 24 hours so that you may access it again in the future. Lastly, make sure to download from the Resource Center the corresponding white paper, Top 10 Hospitality Best Practices. Now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Scott McCartney. Scott covers the airline industry for the Wall Street Journal. He writes a weekly column on airlines and travel called The Middle Seat, which is one of the paper's most read and most emailed fixtures, and a blog called The Middle Seat Terminal. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for that introduction, Jenny. As guest demographics change, hotels are reinventing themselves to appeal to the millennial generation. From creating new brands to designing meaningful social media campaigns, best practices are emerging that hotel brands and individual properties can put into play to attract and retain guests. In today's webinar, you will learn what millennial travelers are looking for in a hotel, what makes a successful social media campaign, why loyalty programs matter for your bottom line, and how smartphones and other devices are changing the relationship between hotel and guest. We have a fantastic panel lined up today, so let's get right to it. I want to introduce George Fleck, Vice President of Global Brand Management for Le Méridien and Westin, and George is joining us from Bangkok. Lisa Tully-Lavion is Corporate Director of Marketing and Brand Communications for the Trump Hotel Collection. Tony Cortiza, Vice President of Global Brand Strategy at Melia Hotels International, and Tony joins us from Mallorca, Spain. Lisa Zandi, Senior Vice President of Brand Management for Denham Hospitality, which also includes the James brand in Chicago, Miami, and New York. And Clay Voorhees. Clay's Associate Professor in the Department of Marketing at the Eli Broad College of Business, Michigan State University. So let's start with a question for the audience. On your screen, you see the question, what trend are you most focused on now? Engaging customers via social media, creating a more personal experience, coming up with special events, marketing ideas, and promotions, or improving in-room technology? And we'll take just a bit here for voting. Click on whatever your choice is. And let's see what we have. And so a majority, slight majority, says creating a more personal experience. Panel, what do you think of the results there?
Silence is deafening. I'll go first. I think all four of these things are important. I would have voted for all four because at Melia we're certainly, depending on the brand, potentially, but we're working on all four of these areas. But I think at the end of the day, it's not surprising to me that that's the leading answer because we're in a hospitality business, and what we're really all of us trying to do, no matter what the brand, no matter what the segment that we're going after, it's really at the end of the day all about experience, and that means everything really to do with the guest.
Good. Any other thoughts?
So this is Clay Voorhees, and I had the similar thought. I think the other three are really mechanisms to get towards that personal experience. So a lot of our focus on social media, or if you're looking at special events and even in-room technology, the focus of a lot of those investments now are to make things personal via new technology as well. So I think it makes logical sense, and I think it all just ties back into that as people are going to leading hospitality firms to be taken care of, and all four of them really get to that.
Good, and that sets the stage for our first topic, attracting millennials, because it can be a different personal experience. Millennials is a generation born in the 1980s and 1990s that began reaching young adulthood around the year 2000. We know they travel a lot, and they have already grown into a very large and core consumer group. Millennial travelers are expected to outnumber baby boomers, 78 million to 58 million, by the year 2030. They're different from baby boomers and Generation X. A recent study from HVS revealed that millennials use a shorter booking window, and they consult more than 10 sources, such as online review sites, before booking. Starwood's select service Aloft brand started in 2008 with the intention of capturing the millennial market. Other brands are following. Marriott is opening a millennial targeting brand called Moxie in partnership with IKEA. And so, with a little more audience input, a poll question for you. How have you adjusted in response to the rising millennial generation? Integrated more technology? Design is hipper? More active on social media? Or haven't made any changes specifically for this generation? And while we're voting, Clay, let me ask you, you're surrounded by this generation in your classroom. Will these things work, do you think, to attract young travelers?
Yeah, definitely. It's a generation with very high expectations, and they really expect technology to streamline and enhance their experiences. And the real trick is for brands to offer that convenience through technology, but also creating that personal connection at the human level to make them feel special and recognized as guests when they're in your properties.
And for Lisa Tully-Lavion, the Trump children, if they're not millennials, they're close. What perspective do they bring to how you attract this generation to your hotels?
You said it well. Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump absolutely represent this audience. We define them as the next generation of luxury travelers, and they're really the face of the Trump Hotel Collection brand. Under the leadership of their father, Mr. Trump, they oversee the collection and bring great perspective, particularly for this audience group. They're extremely well-traveled and really understand what matters most to travelers. As just noted in the poll that we just took, personalized experience is certainly number one, and quickly followed by feeling that their loyalty is being rewarded in a meaningful way. So they actually were the brainchild of our Trump Card privileges and preferences program that launched 2 years ago. And they really are big proponents and believers in social media, so they really do reach out to this audience through those channels. They have a combined audience of 4.5 million with a cloud score of 82. And we're fortunate enough that they do tweet and post on our behalf. So when they do engage with this audience, we see that our channels double, if not triple, when they engage with this audience and speak about the Trump Hotel. So as a luxury hotel brand, we certainly have this unique advantage of using them as social media brand ambassadors for this particular audience group.
Excellent. And so we look at the poll results, and number one, again, with about half of you, more active on social media to attract attention. And I think that plays exactly into our next topic of using social media to engage customers. Everyone these days, it seems, is on social media, your individual properties, your brands, your guests, and your employees. Some of you may be tweeting now, and that's quite all right. Just remember our hashtag, hashtag WSJGuestEXP. The question is how to harness it for your benefit. Starwood's Le Méridien has created two major social media campaigns that succeeded in building awareness for the growing brand, driving loyalty, personalizing the experience, and creating channel growth. So for George, Tell us briefly about the Le Méridien campaign.
Okay, thanks, Scott. So Le Méridien's recent social media initiatives included our 2013 Filters of Discovery campaign, which was a unique partnership with Travel and Leisure magazine, as well as partnering with influential pro-Instagrammers from around the world. And in 2012, we actually really started to kick off our social media initiatives with a project we called A Photographer's Journey together with Air France, which was essentially an online photography exhibit curated by Le Méridien's Facebook fans. Really Instagram, which we launched in the spring of 2013, so really not that long ago, together with the opening of our new Le Méridien in Bali, it really offers us a particularly impactful way to reach our curious and creative-minded guests through this medium of photography. And for a brand with hotels primarily outside of the U.S., we see and value photography as the perfect medium and platform because it is so broadly appealing and globally understood with, the enhancements of smartphone camera capabilities. It's just so relevant to today's millennial global traveler. This past fall, we partnered with Travel and Leisure to craft a digital campaign. We called it Filters of Discovery, in which well-known U.S. and UK-based photographers and pro-Instagrammers Ali Jardine, Naomi Atkinson, and Dan Rubin documented a 72-hour stay at a Le Méridien property from San Francisco to Paris and New Delhi, and then respectively posting images of Le Méridien properties with a focus on unlocking the destination that they're in and focusing on the local culture and cuisine. And then those photos were displayed on their own channels as well as across Travel and Leisure social media sites and a dedicated section of both our websites, which also allowed users to upload travel photos on their own, so user-generated content, in addition to what we did with the pro-Instagrammers. We also had a sweepstakes that allowed followers to vote on their favorite images as these Instagrammers were traveling, and those became a cover of a Le Méridien booklet, which actually we thought it'd be great to take all this digital content back into the analog world and create a almost like a city guide together with TNL that would then be available to guests as they travel to those three destinations. And the sweepstakes, was basically winning sort of like this 72-hour trip that those Instagrammers took at our Le Méridien in San Francisco and be able to uncover those same experiences that essentially, through the lens of Instagram, those photographers took.
And how did you settle?
Go ahead.
I'm curious how you settled on photography as the medium to use. Was it simply because this generation communicates through pictures so much?
Yeah, absolutely. And we really believe that Le Méridien is primarily outside of the U.S. with 70% of the portfolio in non-English speaking markets. So we needed to find a medium that was very quickly, easily understood, and that didn't require translations. And also, with the rise of usage of smartphones and really, people love to take pictures as they travel. And, Le Méridien has had this passion for how do you unlock and discover destinations through these unique filters of culture and cuisine. And what better way to bring this alive than beautiful and a curated, image library.
Good. And for Tony, you're in the company office tower today, but not far from you on the beach is the Soul Wave House, also known as Soul Wave House, billed as the world's first tweet experience hotel. What does that mean?
Well, it means we tried something very different. Actually, it's a little bit of a story. And I'll try and keep it short, but the Soul brand is a heritage brand of the company, and we've been working very hard strategically to find ways to take the brand forward and make it relevant and re-energize that portfolio. And the Soul House concept if you go back to that poll question slide with the HIPAA design and the social media and the different things, we basically checked every box on that. In a lot of ways, we're trying to create a millennial-based resort brand, take a loft to the beach, if you like. Sorry to borrow from another company, but and we already had that in situ in process, and because it's a little bit of a sort of brand laboratory in terms of that particular property, we were very, very close to the experience and what was taking place. And what was taking place there was a socially driven environment. We were successfully getting the younger demographic coming in. The destination is a very entertainment, nightlife-driven destination. It's a great beach, but the nightlife scene is hot and heavy around the hotel. And what was already taking place on the property was a really socially driven environment and experience. And what we actually did is that we kind of went about creating a sandbox for the children to play in, if you like, because we created a Twitter-based perspective to the hotel. We created a Twitter concierge position. We innovated in terms of room categories. We created a Twitter party suite, and that comes with Twitter concierge service. You can fill your minibar through hashtag, these types of things, and it goes all the way through to Twitter pool parties and different things. But in a lot of ways, we were very close to the pulse of what was going on with the guest and close to what the guest was looking for. I'm not going to say that I think that this is a formula in terms of how we sort of basically branded the property, if you like, on the back of Twitter, and we were fortunate that they liked what we were doing very much, and we got a lot of help from them along the way as well. So this is not something I think we can all of a sudden have 20 Twitter hotels or resorts around the place, but I think it's a very strong lesson for us as a company in terms of moving forward with this market segment and with this particular brand and product, because this is basically what is going on, and tapping into what is going on with these customers and speaking to them in a relevant way. And I say that I think sincerity and emotional connection is something that is important. If this was not a resort, I don't think this would work. This is something that worked because of the environment, because of the fact that it's a vacation experience, because of the fact of what is the dynamic of the resort hotel space.
And is the bottom line here that this is for that property a good way to market it, or is it that through Twitter you now have a different a means of communicating with your guests that you might not have had before?
Well, we have all of that. We're actually doing hotel hiring through Twitter. So the Twitter is a seasonal destination. So the Twitter concierges in different positions are being hired and interviewed through Twitter. So it gives you everything. We through the guest flow that came in, every guest coming in, they logged into the Wi-Fi. They got free Wi-Fi and all throughout the stay. That was the payoff for them for joining into the network. And so we've got a database, we've got a relationship, we've got all sorts of things.
Great. And another way to use social media is to gather your fans and followers in events such as Twitter chats or a Google Hangout. Lisa Zandi, one of the James initiatives right now is on all things digital, including the website as a primary marketing tool for brand awareness and revenue generation. How do you ensure a consistent digital voice and flow of content across multiple digital channels, including social, the brand.com sites, and advertising?
Thanks, Scott. Yes, it's a tough job. It's much easier said than done in today's world, and obviously the digital channels are hugely influential and impactful in affecting perceptions, overall brand reputation, and then ultimately bookings, especially for the millennial guest, as so technology dependent and driven. From a more strategic standpoint, one of the things that we at Denahan and James Hotels strive to continually improve on is how great a piece of content can and how it should flow through a digital journey, not only so that the way you're leveraging something on social media or digital advertising, it might not be exactly how you would message on the web, but we have to take it from a customer perspective that the channels should connect and build off one another so that we're not actually confusing the customer in the end by trying to give them a message or relate to them. Our team overall is incredibly active, ensuring that all of our agency partners have symbiotic relationships and that the digital agency is aware of what the social PR and creative are all doing and that they're working together on initiatives. Again, easier said than done many times. We find that this creates a more cohesive approach, and ultimately it is a brand team that's the gatekeeper and checkpoint to ensure that everything ties together. We feel that it is a responsibility to our guests to do that, and especially when you're a relatively new brand of 3 going on 4, it's key that that you do this. And from a strategic standpoint, again, search engines are favoring social media sites much more in their search results, so it's especially important to make sure it's all very integrated and controlled yet authentic.
Okay. And Lisa Tully-Lavion, Trump Soho has an ongoing wedding-focused Twitter chat series. There are dedicated hashtags, #TrumpBride, #WeddingWednesday. How do these efforts serve your marketing purposes?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, echoing my colleagues here, social media is certainly one of the best ways to communicate brand initiatives. It certainly helps that it's relatively turnkey as well. So there's an enormous focus for us to leverage this channel on a brand level as well as on a property level. So when we roll out new program initiatives, we actively solicit guest feedback. We encourage them to share photos and videos and really be part of the conversation. And fortunately, we have a very vocal following on most of these channels. So you mentioned Trump Soho's Trump Bride and Trump Weddings Wednesday, and they use this to really engage with possible brides and grooms and promote all of their weddings and catering offerings. In fact, one bride we just booked last week booked her wedding at Trump Soho as a direct result of seeing a photo on Pinterest tied to our Weddings Wednesday series. So we know that this channel is moving the needle, and it's certainly something that we'll continue to test and make sure that we have great content out there. And as George mentioned, photography is key. So and it speaks volumes. So having great photos out there and really speaking directly with our guests or potential guests, and unfortunately, it's starting to pay off for us as we see some nice bookings come in.
Okay, let's go on to another key part of all of this, review sites. For many travelers, checking review sites such as TripAdvisor and Yelp are essential parts of vetting hotels and ultimately choosing a place to stay. Hotels have responded in different ways. More than 80% of lodging professionals said in a SmartBrief survey that they try to engage as much as possible on review sites, while 8% said they reply only to the negative posts. Just 12% said they chose not to reply. Lisa Zandi, do you encourage your general managers and others to reply to reviews?
Oh, yes, for sure, especially back, Scott, to the millennial generation. It's all about peer-to-peer endorsement. We find the honest responses to issues or also just thanking the guests definitely creates a positive interaction that has a lot of impact, both for the individual and for others using the site, maybe just for research. Our team works closely with the property teams to help guide the voice and tone and brand language and how to create genuine interaction. We don't want it to feel candor boxed. It's all about that evolution, again, of personalization. We don't want to respond simply for the sake of responding. There's a lot of thought that goes into the responses. And from a back-end strategic side, again, of how these reviews affect, obviously, our digital reputation, it's enormous, especially with products like, the new Google Carousel. We don't even know the potential effects yet of the, algorithm or the heat maps. They're not yet established. So it's incredibly important, both from a guest relationship standpoint and a business standpoint.
And do you think when you're responding, are you responding to the customer one-to-one, or are you responding to the greater audience of potential customers, and you might have a different response that way?
It's a bit of both, to be honest. If there is a trend in the problems that are being identified, and you usually find that there is, then you are responding to a greater audience. But, sometimes there's obviously personalization put in because of the relationship that particular guest had at the property level. They were there for an anniversary or, a wedding or something. We definitely want that to come out. And that's why, it isn't so important that you continue to have that personalization and property ownership of this, because there's no way that anybody else would know unless they were at the property, interacting with the guest.
And George, I wanted to ask you, Starwood created its own review program and posts them on each property's website. Why do they do that, and how do you advise properties on how to react to positive and negative comments?
Yeah, thanks. We're very excited about this program, and it's really about enabling, these user-generated reviews and guest photos on these websites, and showing that Starwood is committed to delivering really personalized guest experiences. We think that, allowing our guests to post and share on our branded sites will allow, building deeper relationships with our guests and really obtaining honest and transparent information from them. It allows also guests to share their experiences directly at the hotels that they're staying at, and making it easier for other consumers and potential guests to find the information they crave. I mean, it's great to have very glossy marketing materials out there, but it's even better to have real information, real images, and that are instant and immediate of people that are right there in the middle of, whether they're staying, in a beautiful resort or they're in a city hotel. That both the positive and the negative is out there, so people can plan their ideal hotel stay based on what others, like-minded customers are saying. So really creating authentic, personalized experiences that allow this sort of dialogue to happen, and for people to either have a bit of I guess almost like bragging how what a great time they had, or also expressing concerns for us to take for opportunity. So I think that really our goal is to provide everything that the guest needs to select and book the best hotel experience for them. And there's no better place for us to do that in our own digital channels, and be able to provide this very honest and candid opportunity. And also it shows that it works. In just 6 months, we've doubled the amount of pictures geotagged at hotels just on LeMeridian.com, with now close to 4,000 images available for people to look at the 95 Le Méridien hotels around the world.
That's great. Very good. Let's move on to loyalty programs, and we're going to go back to an audience poll. Curious for all of you out there, are you happy with your loyalty program? The first selection is yes, it brings in good business. No, it doesn't seem to drive rates or stays. 3, I don't have the data to decide. And last one, we don't have a loyalty program. So while you're voting, I just wanted to point out major hotel chains are constantly adding to their programs. Intercontinental Hotels Group revamped its program in July with a new name and benefits. It's now called IHG Rewards Club. The program offers its 71 million members free internet access. So an incentive to actually join the program to get free internet access when you stay there. And we'll look at the results, and almost half happy and say it brings in good business. And interesting. Okay. So, all of the major hotel chains have loyalty programs, either because they find them valuable or they have to have one to compete. Independent hotels can now offer loyalty rewards through a program called Stash Hotel Rewards, which is 3 years old and has 200 independent hotels involved. Clay, you took a closer look at Stash to see whether joining the program affected the average daily rate members paid, the total nights and stays per year, and the revenue of members at 2 hotel groups. What did you find?
So at the really simple level, we found the Stash program was really changing guest behavior significantly. So in the year following enrollment, these already very loyal guests increased their spending by about 50%, and this was constant across both of the hotel groups that we looked at. And this increase, this 50% jump triggered by enrollment in the program, was primarily due to an increase in the number of nights they had in a given year, as the average daily rate was largely unaffected.
And I think the results showed the same trend at the hotel with an ADR of $73 as well as the hotel with an ADR of $261. What did that tell you?
So this was kind of one of the cool findings, is it just really shows that guests at all price points really value recognition and rewards. And you can go through and drive increases in behavior if these programs are calibrated the right way. So the class of hotel doesn't really matter, so that's not, at least based on our results, doesn't seem to be a viable excuse of, if we're a luxury brand or if we're an entry brand. It seems like all hoteliers could get a benefit out of this.
And the takeaways aren't apples to apples when you compare to the major chains, right, because of negotiated corporate rates. But do you think there are lessons for the chains in your study?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And that's always one of the biggest challenges, especially when a lot of these heavy hitter travelers are going to be traveling for business and have these negotiated contracted rates. But in our particular study, we noticed that the average daily rate was largely unaffected by enrollment in the program. So that really wasn't what was driving the results. People weren't spending more typically per stay, but they were coming back more often. So even if you hook these business travelers through these negotiated rates, it does look, and on their leisure time, they'll come back and give you additional business once you start building that rewards momentum. So I think these rates get negotiated in the background, but the impact of the program largely will be unaffected by them.
Okay. And now let's look at technology a bit. Didn't get a lot of love in an earlier poll, but it's a crucial area for many hotels and their guests. We all know some guests prefer interacting with their smartphones or tablets instead of hotel staff. Indeed, a recent SmartBrief poll showed that 35% of respondents cited self-service check-in as the top guest-facing technology they wanted to implement. Other automated amenities hoteliers would like to see are upgraded in-room entertainment, digital room keys, and apps to connect guests' mobile phones to their television. Lisa Tully-Lavion, do these automated services have any place in a luxury hotel? How would your guests react to a check-in kiosk?
Sure. We define our guests as the next generation of luxury travelers. So they're used to and they're accustomed to instant communication. So there's certainly a place for these automated type services in a luxury hotel, but we think it needs to be done very selectively so it's not seen as intrusive and instead really adds convenience and enriches their stay. So at this time, we don't offer automated check-in. We do offer, and we're testing it right now, some programs via text. So while they are on property or before they arrive, we're pushing out custom messaging to them. But we found as a five-star brand that our guests are still really looking for that face-to-face, high touch-point service. It's a core of what we offer at Trump Hotel Collection and at each of our individual properties. So while it will certainly, continue to test automated services, the face-to-face personalized experience will always be a key feature at Trump property.
And Lisa Zandi, you recently launched the James mobile app. What can guests do with it, and how often are they using it?
Yes, Scott, we have. But I do want to say that it doesn't take away from the service side of it. What we're trying to do is offer options But yes, we've dubbed it the Pocket Assistant, and the goal is really that it acts as an extension of our anticipatory service. Guests can book a hotel reservation, extend a stay, check in, schedule a spa appointment, or make reservations, order in-room dining, request valet or luggage pickup, contact a front desk or concierge agent. And from a more personalized experience, since everyone wants that, we have a James self-guided art tour on the app, as well as local insiders guides, the best of which each city has to offer. And we make sure that, the goal is that the content curated through it is not just about the main attractions. There's tons of those apps, but it's more from a local favorite, hidden spots as well. The app's still new, and it's in launch rollout phases across the hotels, but initial response has been very positive. And as we continue to move forward with it, it will be based really on customer usage and feedback, and how they've responded to it, and making sure that it stays simple, because most people still want it to be very simple, integrated, and seamless.
And with that, do you think you'll be expanding the functionality of it in the future, doing a lot more with it?
Absolutely. Most of the times the technology is ahead of what most hotels can do within the four walls. So we have to make sure that the technology and what it delivers, we can deliver it on the back end, and there is no gap, or there's a very small gap for mistakes that then completely affect what the customer thinks of the product that we put out there.
Okay. And now let's move on to a topic near and dear to my heart, making headlines. One way to get people tweeting about your properties is through memorable and sometimes just bizarre experiences. Chicago's Acme Hotel Company offers guests the opportunity to try Google Glass, which isn't yet available to the public. PGA National Resort successfully set an official Guinness World Record for the longest ice cream sundae. And so a poll question. Let's ask the audience, and be honest now, would you ever try a headline-grabbing stunt? There are two yeses. Yes, we've done this and it worked. Yes, with the right idea. Or two no choices. No, our brand wouldn't allow it. And no, these are too difficult to plan and execute. Okay, let's see if we've got results. And almost 62% of you, yes, with the right idea. You would try the headline-grabbing stunt, but only a few of you have done it so far. So, Tony and Lisa Tully-Lavion, are these stunts valuable, or are they just PR for the industry?
Who's first?
Whoever would like to go first. Well, Tony, can we start with you?
Sure. I think, really pulling off these types of PR stunts is not easy. Scott, you mentioned that you're in the business of headlines. What really qualifies for a headline is not something that is necessarily that easy to pull off. And you can invest a lot of time, money, and energy into something that you think, from your perspective, is a huge idea, but when the media get a hold of it, they really don't feel quite the same way. The other thing is that I think it's really, really, really crucial that whatever you're doing along these lines, you've got to be true to your brand. Whatever you're doing, whether it's a stunt or not a stunt, it's got to be something that is true to the brand story. There's got to be a point to the initiative that goes beyond just a gimmick. Google Glass, I was actually approached by them to use the Google Chrome glasses at an event that we were doing in London. It was the after party for the Brit Awards, and in the end we said no, because I knew that the Google glasses would get a lot of press. I already knew the Brit Awards after party was going to get a lot of press, and what was it really going to do for me other than divert attention away potentially from my own product and my own message? So I think you got to be careful with it, and it can work obviously, but it's not quite so straightforward. But doing things that tell the story of your product and your brand is the most important thing to be doing.
Excellent. And Lisa, anything to add?
I certainly echo what Tony has said. Mr. Trump is certainly a big believer in PR and the power of PR. It's an incredibly important tool to communicate our brand message to a wide variety of audiences, most importantly being our guests. So we believe, a strong PR campaign can really generate some buzz and ignite a conversation. So we were approached recently by Fabergé to partner with them as part of their big egg hunt. And we were fortunate enough to have 3 of the actual eggs on property at Trump Central Park. So it was a great kind of surprise and delight feature for our guests. And it was, a great opportunity for them to be involved and to tweet and to post about it. So we thought that made great sense. It wasn't a PR stunt. Rather, it was a very strategic partnership with a luxury brand that ultimately benefited our guests. So I think initiatives like that make sense for a brand like ours, rather than stunts.
Okay. So one more topic before we get to Q&A: families. Millennials are today's young parents. We just wrapped up the spring break season, and now summer vacations are on the horizon. Hotels are catering to families with new products and services. The Breakers Palm Beach, for example, has extensive programming for families, offering a 6,160 square foot family entertainment center with amendments such as an arcade, a movie room, and a toddler playroom. And Holiday Inn has its famous Kids Eat Free offer. So, Lisa Tully-Lavion, back to you. Are families a big demographic for you, and how do your hotels accommodate them?
They absolutely are. Certainly, as of lately, we found that a number of our business travelers will extend their stay through the weekend and have their families come and join them and utilize our Trump Kids program. And with all of our hotels being non-smoking, as well as our Vegas property being non-gaming, and all of our properties offering 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom suites, most with kitchens, they're ideal for families, extended families who are looking for quick getaways or long-term stays. And we even encourage you to bring the family dog. We have a great Trump Pets program with tons of pet amenities for them as well. So family travel and particularly traveling with young kids and even teenagers is an important audience that we specifically target and cater to.
And Tony, Melia Hotels has programming for children at its brands. How do families respond? What do families respond to the most?
I'd like to first want to congratulate Lisa on the dog idea. I think that's brilliant, but I promise not to use it.
Okay. We're willing to share.
No, I promise I won't. No, I think that the family segment is a very lucrative, very important segment for us. Some brands more than others. I think what appeals to them is what appeals to families. I'm a parent with 3 young children, so it's kind of near and dear to my heart. But delivering an experience and services that really speak to accommodating the family as a specific type of customer unit is what is key. And I think what's key to doing that is not just speaking to the children or not just speaking to what the adult wants, but trying to create the perfect combination of the two things. In one of our brands, Paradisus, which is a luxury all-inclusive offering, we have what I think is a particularly good program, which is the Family Concierge program, and we tailor that through the eyes of the children as well through the eyes of the parents. So Inside the family suites, like Lisa said, is key to the offering. That's the basic. If you haven't got the accommodation configuration, you can't even begin to cater to the customer. But inside that, we do mini robes, we do a mini pillow menu for the children, mini slippers, separate amenities, children's branded type amenities, different bath time set up for the kids. We'll do a turn down service, which is cookies and milk, which the parents obviously pretty much hate, but the children love. I say hate because who wants their kids running around with chocolate in them before they go to bed? But it's on the level of the child, from the check-in experience all the way through to the in-room amenities, but it's just as much through the eyes of the parent. So the additional offerings that we have for them. So we have a selection of, to give a quick example, of game consoles for the suites, Xbox, etc., etc. But it's on request. We don't have it in the room because, as a parent, if I have all of that in the room, I can't get my kids out of the room to go to the beach, to go to dinner, to leave the room in the morning after, to go and have breakfast. So it's being thoughtful and considerate to what that customer wants and what drives the dynamic of a really great family experience.
Okay, very good. Now on to questions that the audience has submitted. First question: do you think social media, and I'll throw this out to you all, do you think social media is becoming more important than personal, i.e. human, service? And how does Twitter fulfill the unexpressed needs of a guest?
So this is Clay again. I think when face-to-face, personal service is still king. Social media can be a nice supplement in the background, but for me, I think the real value is extending the dialogue. Lisa talked a little earlier about how their activity on Twitter built awareness and ultimately resulted in a booking. So it's helping with conversion. And one of the more powerful areas that has been alluded to a little bit is the idea of extending the experience after the stay ends. So with social media, you can better have guests relive those experiences, give them content that's shareable, and really help enhance that memory so they keep the happy thoughts going as you go forward. And that's something we really haven't had before.
Okay, very good. Any other thoughts on the panel?
Yeah, this is George. So I also think that it's so important that it's not just about recognizing what our guests are saying, on social media channels, but also what we then do with that information and empower our associates, to manage the online presence information we receive, and then what the offline follow-through is afterwards. Because oftentimes, especially with negative reviews or imagery, that there is a very strong follow-up, and all of our associates really feel that they know how to address those, given feedback is submitted through a unique platform like social media.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Lisa Tully-Lavian here. We're in a unique spot because if someone has an issue, or good or bad, they can direct message Mr. Trump or Ivanka or Eric or Don Jr. So it's absolutely critical for us here on a corporate level as well on a property level to make sure that we're responding to those directly, because they're individual personalities with individual pages. So it's not only can a guest or a person contact us, they can contact and engage directly with the family. So for us, it's really important to make sure that we're addressing that in a really timely, real-time fashion. So that's it's a challenge, but we're able to manage that at least for the time being.
Okay, good. Let's see, second audience question. How should hoteliers be using online travel agencies to further enhance their marketing strategies? And with that, who should answer the OTAs? General manager, guest services? What do you guys think?
I'll take that. It's Lisa here. Lisa Zandy. they're still obviously very OTAs are very important to our exposure. What we focus on is making sure that they, as much as we can, be an extension of our brand, and that takes a lot of diligence and consistency in making sure that you are not looking at them as some evil thing, but more as a strategic source of revenue that you want to reflect as much as you can what you stand for, and that is integrated in with the rest of your digital channels. And as far as who responds to it, often it can change. I mean, obviously there has to be an accountable presence because it's in live time, but we like to do it with those who are informed, especially if it's a service recovery issue or something that is pertinent to a property visit. We want to make sure that whoever is responding is in the know and gives a qualified response, not just some token answer. So it's usually property driven, but how where that sits on property really can depend on the property, the skill set, the structure, etc.
Okay, good. Third audience question: how do you measure the impact of your social media on revenue? The key question. And with that, do you measure all social media initiatives?
I can answer that one. This is Lisa Tully-Lavion. We certainly look at it. We're not completely we measure it through Google Analytics, and we do look and see what kind of referral traffic that we do get from a number of our social media channels. So we can look and see, okay, well, what revenue do we make and what ADR can we make? So it is a great channel for referral traffic, and there we can capture them and serve them up relevant content on our website. As I mentioned before, we're also getting great referrals even from our weddings hosted chats. So we are being able to see direct ROI, measurable ROI through call volume as well as through our Google Analytics referral traffic, which is great to see, especially for an ADR such as ours.
Okay, other thoughts? Moving social media into revenue.
Well, yeah, this is Tony Cortez. I mean, this is the question of the day, and I haven't come up with an answer for that one. I know that there's no question that the media landscape has changed forever. Social media is becoming a bigger and bigger component of that media landscape. But it's a very dynamic, environment. And sometimes, we have to dare to be different, and you have to dare to do things without necessarily being 100% sure of what that ROI or that end result is really going to be. Because, if we were having this webinar a few years ago, there was no Pinterest, So the environment is changing so rapidly, and I think it's a real challenge as marketers and hoteliers, both sides of that coin, for us to stay truly on top of this thing. But as Lisa's saying, there's basic barometers there, just like any actions that you're taking. You can use to measure what you're doing, and you can see if you're being successful and if you're not being successful, and the customers are going to tell you if you're not being successful as well, which is the other beauty of the media.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yeah, this is George. I also want to add that, while it's very difficult to measure directly the impact on your revenues, social media marketing is also very cost effective. You don't have to spend, millions on a big ad campaign. It's very cost effective, and this is why you're seeing so many smaller startup companies that drive great viral content for very little money, and that is the type of content. If it's not the glossy marketing videos that get uploaded and see the views on YouTube, it's like those really engaging, interesting, mostly quirky content that really gets people, engaged in a conversation. So, it's really cost effective, and it's, that's on the flip side, really a great opportunity for brands that are wanting to set themselves apart in this new way of communicating.
This is Tony Cortese again. Building on what George just said, I mean, it's absolutely true. This is the beauty of those platforms as well, in terms of the potential of what they can deliver, and the quality of what you are doing to engage the people through these channels is also going to have a huge impact on what kind of results you're going to get. So it's not a straight, quantitative type of, conversation. It's a qualitative conversation as well, because something that goes viral, is deliver things that you never thought could happen. I mean, the Twitter hotel, when we did it, we never expected the eventual outcome in terms of PR pickup and exposure that we got through doing something like that.
And I think, this is Lisa Zandi, another benefit is, from a different perspective, is we learn more about our customers too. We learn more about the audience or the guest and what's important to them. It's a constant focus group that allows us just to be better educated about what they care about and what they don't care about.
Good. I think a sort of a follow-on question to that, and George, maybe we'll start with you on this one. The question is, do you find your brand leaning towards leaning towards one certain social media platform based on your target demographic, or do you utilize numerous social media platforms and tailor your posts towards your target demographic?
Absolutely. I think it's very important to have a strategy in place, depending on your brand and your target consumer, of which platforms to really, amplify. I think it's important to have a presence in sort of, throughout all platforms, and also seeing what emerging platforms are coming up and maybe be playing in those as well. But really having a very targeted approach. For example, on Lemuridian, we put a lot of effort into Instagram because we see this as a platform that really resonates with the sort of, the creative, curious-minded traveler that we're targeting, and the fact that we're looking for a very global and very much non-English speaking audience. But for W Hotels, for example, Twitter is a great platform to really amplify, because it's very much event and happenings driven with lots of buzz and design, fashion, music. So Twitter is such an immediate way of communicating of what's happening now. So I think that it really depends on your brand and who you're targeting and who you're engaging with, and really amplifying those channels where you see the most value based on your target audience.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? And let me ask you all, since we've been talking so much about social media, do you personally, each of you, use Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram to connect with other brands, such as airlines or other folks in the travel and tourism sector?
So this is Clay. I'm like the oldest millennial on the planet, so I personally hate social media. I'm a social recluse, but obviously respect it and study it, and the only reason I pay half attention to it is so I'm not ignorant in class. So I'm like
wow.
the anti-millennial.
I wasn't sure we could say that.
I'm not sure. The one nice thing is nobody from Michigan State's listening to me, so I can't get fired.
Ah, good point. Well, I agree with Clay. I mean, I do it professionally. I follow other brands in the industry because I need to, but on a personal level, I'm too busy doing webinars to be active on social media.
Very good. All right, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott and panelists. Today's event was very informative and thought-provoking. And thank you, attendees, for joining the discussion by submitting great questions and tweeting throughout the event. We would also like to say a special thank you to the Wall Street Journal for making today's event possible. Everyone, please be sure to download a copy of the white paper, Top 10 Hospitality Best Practices, from the Resource Center today before leaving. Thank you again. Bye.